Can the cookbook from 1978, claiming to help with low cost and high nutrition make-ahead recipes, actually help us in 2025? Let's find out. All right, so first thing on the list is gonna be a muffin mix. Now, I love making muffins, and if I can find a way to make it quicker and easier with 2 toddlers and 1 on the way, I am excited. So I'm gonna make this prep ahead mix, and then we'll make a batch of muffins later on just to see how they taste and how they turn out. All right, so this calls for 8 cups of flour, and don't worry, I will put all of the recipes and measurements into the description below. Now, I usually don't carry vegetable shortening. We try not to have more of the highly processed oils in our home. So I'm going to substitute in coconut oil. That may or may not be an absolute fail, but it is shelf stable at room temperature. So I think it should work okay. Definitely I'll report back, but the recipe does call for vegetable shortening if you want to stick exactly to what the recipe says. So just keep that in mind. Before I put in the coconut oil, I'm going to just make sure that all of the flour and sugar is well distributed, and then we will throw in the coconut oil. Okay, so I am just really trying to make sure that this coconut oil gets well distributed, because I feel like that'll be a very important part, that it is not clumpy or like huge spots. But actually this is incorporating much better than I thought it would. I was a little bit nervous. So I think it's gonna be okay. So I'm just gonna put them in mason jars. I have really nice caps. I'll show you. If you use mason jars a lot, I highly recommend getting these plastic lids here. They are super, super nice. They help keep things nice and dry and cool. They're a really great option to put in your pantry, put in your fridge. So I absolutely love these. I'll link them in the description below if you don't have them. So whipping together this batter was super easy because most of the mix was already done. I added a little bit of cocoa powder and some chocolate chips. And that wasn't a recipe that was given, but I really wanted chocolate chip muffins, so I just kind of winged it. And then I just put them into our muffin tins. I use an ice cream scooper. That's like my favorite way to do muffins. It is a drier batter, and I was a little bit concerned at first, but it honestly works out really well. And I was going to give you like a little video doing a taste test, but my kids ate all of them within like a couple of hours. So I would say this was definitely a win. I think next time I will do maybe some warm milk to melt the coconut oil a little bit better. I think maybe if you do the shortening, it might work out just a little bit better to maybe get a more buttery texture. However, the coconut oil still worked out really well, and I think it was still a win. And like I said, my kids ate all of it, so no complaints here. So the next thing that we're going to be making is a white sauce mix. Now, I love anything with a white sauce. I love creamy soup. I love Alfredo, mac and cheese, anything. So for me, anything that makes that a little bit faster, I'm excited about. So I'm going to give this one a shot. I actually purchased this non-fat dry milk, which is a huge part of the base of this mix, at an Amish store not that long ago. I initially just purchased it as like an emergency milk thing, like just to have it as storage prep in case we have like some sort of, you know, power outage, something like that. And so I'm kind of excited to use it. I'm gonna get some more. I'm actually headed back there this weekend. And so yeah, I'm gonna get this started. It is super easy to whip up, and we're gonna make some cream of chicken wild rice soup later on today, and we'll use this as the base. So I'm just kind of like mixing this in here. I think it said to cut it up the butter. I thought that I would be able to get away without it. It probably would have made it a little bit easier, but I think it's still going to mix up pretty well. So I'm just going to mix this until the butter is well incorporated into this mixture. I'll set a little bit of aside for our soup later, and then the rest you can store in the fridge for 8 to 10 weeks. All right, so I am going to add in the bouillon. and 1.5 cups of the mix. And I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I don't want it to scorch, but it basically says to stir it for 5 minutes. And wow, you can see it's really thickening up already. So that's really exciting. I wasn't sure like how this would turn into a roux all that effectively, but it's looking great. So basically I'm just going to cook this for 5 minutes. That's what it says. I think that's essentially to get like the raw flour taste out, just like you would any other type of roux or like white sauce base. So we'll just cook this up and we'll make up the rest of the soup. Adding in the onion and the celery and some garlic. So I'm going to blend in the 1 egg yolk and hopefully it doesn't just scramble on me. I am going to do 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. Simmering for a bit, and now I'm just going to add in some wild rice. Now it didn't call for this, but I mean, I feel like you can't have cream and chicken soup without rice, in my opinion. And I happen to have some wild rice, and so I'm just using that, but you could obviously just use regular white rice. And you guys, this honestly has turned out way better than I anticipated. I was a little skeptical that this would work out, but it is so tasty and the consistency is so good. So this one is definitely a winner, and I will absolutely be using this as my white sauce base for almost everything. All right, day 2, because filming with kids, kind of hard. If you're doing this without filming, you could absolutely finish like everything I'm doing within 20 minutes. It was the actual mixing part, super quick. So we're gonna make some rice blends, which I cannot believe I have not thought about these before. So simple, so easy, and making a side of rice taste good, have really good flavor, so important. And you can buy these rice mixes in the store, obviously, but I did the math. I looked up one of them and they are like $1.50 for about 2 cups of uncooked rice. And I don't know the exact amount that I pay for the rice at Costco, but I do know that the math is going to break out to be way cheaper. So these are going to be super convenient. They're also not going to have all the added fillers, weird stuff in it that a lot of those things have. So I'm really excited. I'm going to make, I think I'm going to make this like dill lemon one, but they also had some Mexican ones that seemed pretty good. They have a lot of different options. So I'm just going to make one up and we're going to see how that goes. All right, so it calls for 4 cups of rice. So I'm going to put the lemon zest in there. It says 5 teaspoons. I'm just going to do an entire lemon. Oh, that smells so good. Alternatively, if you don't have lemons or they're just out of your budget, I think you could probably get some lemon zest or some like lemon seasoning or even like a lemon dill seasoning. I bet you could get that in the store and probably combine a lot of these. Okay, and then 4 teaspoons of dill. Okay, so fun fact, 2.5 teaspoons equals a tablespoon. So this is 4 teaspoons. So I'm going to do 1 full one and a little bit less. And since, I mean, it's just like a dill seasoning, I think a little bit over is not going to be bad. And I love dill, so no such thing as too much dill to me. Now it says dried minced chives. I don't have that, so I'm going to actually just put some onion flakes, and hopefully that'll be good. They'll still give that onion flavor. It might be a little bit stronger, but this is just 2 teaspoons, so I'm just going to put 1 tablespoon in there. And then 2 teaspoons of salt. So just under a tablespoon here is what I'm gonna put in. And 8 teaspoons of instant chicken bouillon. So I actually usually don't keep these on hand, but my mother-in-law bought them a while back when she was cooking some soup here. So this has actually come in hand with a lot of these. Once I get my freeze dryer, I'm actually hoping to freeze dry a bunch of my bone broth and make bouillon. But until then, this is going to have to work. I'm just trying to see how many teaspoons each one of these is. I have to imagine that this is about a teaspoon. So I'm just gonna crumble up 8 in here. I'm not gonna make you watch me do that. I'm gonna mix up this rice, I'm gonna store it, and we have a perfect rice mix. Super easy, that took like 2 minutes. So this is what it looks like. And we have a super awesome rice mix. All right, so one of the best things that I have been absolutely obsessed with lately is salads, and I love a Caesar dressing. Big fan, probably my favorite. This one has a Caesar salad dressing mix, so I'm gonna give it a try. All right, so it calls for lemon peels again, so I'm gonna just zest up this lemon. All right, and then it calls for a teaspoon of oregano. So I'm gonna do about half of this tablespoon here. And 1/8 of a teaspoon of minced garlic. So very little bit of this spoon. Oops, sorry. A 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. So it also calls for 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. And I think it means like the stuff that's the processed stuff from the store. So I don't have that on hand. I'm gonna leave that out. And when I make this dressing, I'll grate some Parmesan cheese in it just so that it stays a little bit more shelf stable. I'm just gonna mix this up. I'm actually gonna put it in a small mason jar in my fridge so that it can stay a little bit longer and it's ready just to put the oil in and mix when I'm ready to eat it. So that's it. We've made 4 make-ahead prep mixes, all for lower than we would buy them in the store, and without all the yucky ingredients that come along with it. So if you'd like to give these a try, I'll put all the recipes in the description below. Let me know which one sounds the best to you. And if you love this video and you love other budget cooking videos, I highly recommend checking out this budget video I made for all meals from scratch on a budget. Till next time, I'll see you later.